If you don't get a job, Yubaba will turn you into an animal.
Hidden in the fantastic otherworldly narrative of Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away is an allegory about society's toxic obsession with work.
Come on, get to work, you little rats!
The Studio Ghibli classic was released in 2001 and commented on Japan's losing its soul to capitalism in the context of the country's lost decade. Yet the film is eerily relevant to our contemporary idea of hustle culture, the mindset that to get ahead you need to devote as much of your day as possible to working, leaving little time for anything else.
Work like hell. I mean, you just have to put in 80 to 100 hour weeks every week.
Spirited Away shows that idea to be a trap. While Chihiro may think her liberation comes from 24/7 hustling, in fact, hustling keeps her down. Something more intangible and more spiritual that provides her freedom.
I put a spell on it, so it'll give you back your strength. Just eat it.
Here's our take on how Spirited Away pulls the mask off living to work and shows us the need for another dimension to life.
That's your contract. Sign your name away, and I'll put you to work.
If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified about all of our new videos. This video is brought to you by Mubi, a curated streaming service that takes the guesswork out of choosing what to watch next. Every day, Mubi premieres a new film. It's like having exclusive access to your own personal film festival. Right now, Mubi is offering our viewers 30 days free. Click the link in the description below to start streaming now.
Move it, you stupid sootballs!
Spirited Away follows the adventures of innocent Chihiro, who's forced to become a worker at a chaotic, mysterious bathhouse for spirits while she tries to reclaim her old life and save her parents, who've been transformed into pigs by the bathhouse's villainous ruler, Yubaba.
I'll give you the most difficult job I've got, and work you until you breathe your very last breath.
The bathhouse environment may be bizarre, full of odd characters and spirits for clients, but at its core, it's a place of work. It runs on its own fixed time schedule.
Now get back to work.
Employees sleep top to tail in crowded rooms and are pitted against one another to see who can work the hardest.
Haven't you ever worked a day in your life?
Linen Sen, you get the big tub today.
What? Hey, that's frog work.
Chihiro's productivity is crucial not just to her thriving in the bathhouse, but also surviving.
And if she doesn't work hard, roast her, boil her, do whatever you want.
Simply put, the bathhouse runs on hustle culture, extolling the virtues of overwork and burnout. Dr. Brian Robinson says, when the hustle culture drives you, you unwittingly relinquish your personal power and become a slave to internal and external pressures, adding that 45% of the modern-day workforce brag about ascribing to this way of life.
We have to make sure that they all think that she knows exactly who they are. And I've been studying for weeks.
But this lifestyle actually signals a culture of employment that isn't functioning as it should. If the only way to get ahead is to work every hour of the day, then something is broken.
You've got some customers on the way.
Wait, give us a minute. This is clearly harassment.
Spirited Away critiqued this culture of work at the end of Japan's so-called lost decade.
It's an abandoned theme park. See? They built them everywhere in the early 90s. Then the economy went bad, and they all went bankrupt.
The bad economy that Chihiro's father mentions is a reference to the Japanese stock market crash of 1990, which began a period of long-term economic stagnation. In such an environment, work is a trap. No matter how hard you grind, you are always beholden to financial forces beyond your control.
Saki's on the house tonight. But first, hand over all the gold you picked up.
The film also brings into focus the class hierarchy that a capitalist society helps create, as the working class toils away for the benefit of the upper class.
Welcome, the rich man. He's hard for you to miss. His butt keeps getting bigger, so there's plenty there to kiss.
While the ground workers at the bathhouse scrub floors and feed boilers and scrape sludge, the boss, Yubaba, is high up and away in a luxurious penthouse, viewing her workers as lesser beings.
Now get out. I've got all the lazy bums I need.
The problem with this structure and attitude toward work is that it's inherently dehumanizing. Workers cease to be people and instead become tools for their employers. Spirited Away takes this to an extreme by literally having Chihiro lose her name.
That's how Yubaba controls you, by stealing your name.
And in turn, her identity when she signs her contract at the bathhouse and has to change her name to Sen.
And it belongs to me now. From now on, your name is Sen. You got that?
One of the kanji or Japanese characters that Chihiro loses from her name means to search or inquire. The kanji that is left, sen, means 1000. So Chihiro is symbolically reduced from a person whose identity is linked with curiosity and independent thought to nothing but a number, just as capitalism views us as only as valuable as the number of our net worth.
You drove a Hyundai to get here tonight. I drove an $80,000 BMW. That's my name.
The biggest problem that Spirited Away shows with hustle culture is how seductive it can be.
Give me some gold! Give me some tips, please, sir!
The lure of money encourages a competitive environment among the workers, all of them jostling with each other to provide for No-Face, the wealthy client sowing chaos by liberally bestowing gold coins on the workers.
Just keep the food coming. I want to eat everything!
However, eventually, as with Chihiro's parents, the greed of the workers is punished as they are literally swallowed whole by No-Face.
Wipe that smile off your face. You're still smiling.
Hustle culture creates this catch-22 to ensnare workers, encouraging them to never stop grinding while keeping them at an arm's length from any meaningful social mobility that the promise of work should offer. So while work is presented to Chihiro as a means of escape, the message is that it will actually incarcerate her and us.
I can't believe I forgot my name. She almost took it from me.
It is only in abandoning the hustle that she's able to get back to her old life. On the flip side, those who do have money also aren't fulfilled, as we see through No-Face and Chihiro's parents who represent overconsumption.
Mom! Dad! Come on, quit eating! Let's get out of here!
Early in the movie, consuming turns Chihiro's parents into literal pigs, a common symbol for capitalists.
Finally, those capitalist pigs will pay for their crimes, eh?
Studio Ghibli has clarified they represent the greed of Japan's economic bubble of the 80s and how the people who became pigs in that time didn't know it or remember what it was like to have a human soul. In 2001, after the economic downturn had revealed that capitalism wasn't even working to make people rich, Miyazaki was encouraging the younger generation to look back at Japan's pre-capitalist, more spiritually inclined history. At the very start of the film, when Chihiro notices spirit shrines,
What are those stones? They look like little houses.
They're shrines. Some people think little spirits live there.
her mother's reaction implies that she and her husband embody a new materialistic Japan that's abandoned the country's more spiritual past.
You've got Daddy here. He's got credit cards and cash.
And the parents transforming into pigs is a form of punishment for their failure to show respect to the spirits of the place.
And you humans always make a mess of things, like your parents who gobbled up the food of the spirits like pigs.
The film designs the spirit world to look like Japan from the Meiji period, when Japan first began to transform into a capitalist society, something also illustrated in the Tom Cruise film The Last Samurai.
You see, the Emperor's mad for all things Western, and the samurai believe it's changing too fast. In fact, the ancient and the modern are at war for the soul of Japan.
As Ayumi Suzuki writes, the influx of the Western culture brought to Japan both chaos and growth, represented by the mixing of Japanese identity with Western architecture, philosophy, fashion, and values. But by having Chihiro live in the era of a modernizing Japan, Miyazaki invites the audience to experience what we really were losing as a nation and personally during that period. Suzuki underlines Miyazaki's equation of labor with wage slavery,
Yeah, I'm Kamaji, slave to the boiler that heats the baths.
and how the workers essentially become Yubaba's property. He also reminds us that Chihiro is a child whose childhood has been stolen from her, and this portrayal of child labor makes it clear to us how wrong it feels to give up a whole life to work. Perhaps we might read in a larger commentary too, about how children are treated in the capitalist system. Even when they're not literal laborers like Chihiro, they can face very early pressure to start training for and proving their value as future capitalist earners. Through juxtaposing the Meiji era with its modern one, Spirited Away was arguing that the soul of Japan was still being fought over by two warring belief systems. The film centers on the conflict between materialism and spirituality, and this clash between our material world and the pure spirit world is illustrated through Chihiro's interaction with the stink spirit. When the stink spirit arrives at the bathhouse, he is shunned by the workers as an inferior spirit.
It's a stink spirit.
And apparently it's an extra smelly one.
While Chihiro is given the job of tending to his needs as a test because of her lowly status.
Take this guest to the big tub and take care of him.
But
No buts or I'll turn you into coal.
However, Chihiro is eventually able to figure out that it isn't a stink spirit, but actually a more lofty river spirit, and she succeeds because she treats the spirit with respect.
Just a minute, sir.
That's our best herbal formula.
As director Hayao Miyazaki said, in my grandparents' time it was believed that spirits, or kami, existed everywhere. In trees, rivers, insects, wells, anything. My generation does not believe this, but I like the idea that we should all treasure everything because spirits might exist there.
It means that our world is filled with gods, that they are beyond counting.
And we should treasure everything because there's a kind of life to everything.
Gods show up in places where you least expect them.
When the workers pull what Chihiro thinks is a thorn out of the stink spirit's side, we see that in actuality it's years of accumulated human junk that's been dumped into the river.
Zen, where are you?
The pollution resulting from humanity's materialism has poisoned the river spirit's essence and turned him into something foul and unpleasant.
Hey, we're not open! Go!
The reason Haku has forgotten his identity is likewise because the river he's the spirit of was destroyed to build apartments.
My name is the Kohaku River.
They filled in that river. It's all apartments now.
That must be why I can't find my way home, Chihiro.
Thus, humanity's obsession with overconsumption is shown to have devastating environmental and spiritual costs, a point which echoes the messages of other Studio Ghibli movies like Ponyo and Princess Mononoke.
What I want is for the humans in the forest to live in peace!
Spirited Away shows spirituality and respect for the non-material world to be antidotes to the potential ugliness of materialism. It's spirituality that saves Chihiro, her holding on to something that she can feel and trust even though it can't be articulated, valued, or measured.
Haku!
There is a clear generational divide in Spirited Away. Right from the start, Chihiro senses the danger of the world they're entering while her parents don't.
Did you hear that building? It was moaning.
It's just the wind.
Chihiro is out of place in the bathhouse too, the only other young people being the ambiguously aged Taku and Yubaba's gigantic baby son Bo.
You'll get sick if you go outside. So stay here and play with me.
In Spirited Away, youth is a kind of superpower.
Would you take her to see Yubaba? She's a tough little girl. I think she can handle it.
Yielding a sixth sense that the adults don't have.
You still haven't noticed that something precious to you has been replaced.
For Chihiro, this sixth sense manifests in her relationship with Haku, and how she's able to hold on to her trust for Haku throughout the film.
You're a good friend.
Despite older characters telling her she should be wary of him.
He's Yubaba's henchman. Don't trust anything he says.
From her very first meeting with Haku, he seems to know her.
How did you know my name's Chihiro?
I've known you since you were very small.
And it's later revealed that's because he's a river spirit who once saved her when she nearly drowned.
You were the one who carried me back into shallow water. You saved me.
In the end, she's rewarded for trusting her intuition about Haku.
I knew you were good.
Instead of what others told her. Tasha Robinson argues that Chihiro and indeed all of Studio Ghibli's child heroes and heroines embody the Japanese idea of Genki, or as Robinson puts it, a mixture of driving energy and indomitable good cheer.
There's a fish! Oh, look, there's another one!
So how do you like the new place?
Dad, it's perfect! Look at this, a tunnel of trees!
Whereas Lynn, an older human who works in the bathhouse, idly dreams of escaping one day.
I've got to get out of this place. Someday I'm getting on that train.
Chihiro's youth gives her the tools to actually do so. Chihiro saves Haku by revealing to him his real name.
You did it, Chihiro! I remember I was the spirit of the Kohaku River!
And she saves No Face from his greed.
I think being in the bathhouse makes him crazy. He needs to get out of there.
Turning him back into the gentler, less threatening No Face she first met.
He won't hurt us.
There is a sense that because Chihiro is a child, she's uncorrupted by the material trappings of the adult world.
Ben, you did great. We made so much money.
I don't want any, but thanks. I'm sorry, but I'm in a really big hurry.
She sees it for what it can be: dangerous, inhospitable, soul-destroying. Miyazaki once said that children understand intuitively that the world they've been born into is not a blessed world. Indeed, many films in the Studio Ghibli canon focus on independent, strong child protagonists who are able to navigate their own way out of difficult situations.
She got him! She saved
In My Neighbor Totoro, the two daughters, Satsuki and Mei, can confidently move between the human and spirit world in a way their father cannot, as only young people can see the spirits of the forest.
Here? Last time the tunnel led to Totoro's tree.
In From Up on Poppy Hill, students at a Japanese boarding school work together to save their school's clubhouse from demolition.
Sit back down or I'll have you thrown out! You're just like the old men who run this country! Dumb and enamored with the new!
The things that feel important to adults, progress, money, consumerism,
There's a new guest here who's loaded. He's giving gold away by the handful.
are put in perspective by the young heroes and heroines of Studio Ghibli, especially Chihiro. Chihiro succeeds by never losing sight of who she is,
Chihiro.
or what she thinks is right. So if we're plunged into a society that runs counter to our own worldview, we can, like her, hold on to our original spirit, listen to our own inner child, and just maybe get out of the rat race too. This is a film about greed and how giving into greed blinds us to what actually matters.
Beg for tips. This is the time. Beg for tips. Make yourselves a dime.
Yubaba, the greediest of all, even overlooks her baby going missing, the thing she supposedly loves most because she's so focused on her gold.
Suck up to him and get every last speck of gold. He's...
Cute.
Ooh, what's that dirty mouse doing here?
But while the consumerist greed of the bathhouse is trapping, for Chihiro, the actual act of working is often liberating. She's able to retain a healthy perspective on the benefits work can offer because, unlike her colleagues, she never allows herself to be invariably motivated by money and greed.
What? They're all for me? Thanks, but I don't need any more.
Ultimately, what keeps Chihiro incorruptible to capitalist greed is that she has a greater purpose. She's focused on saving her parents and getting back to her old life.
Mom, Dad, I got a gift from the river spirit. Maybe if you eat it, it'll break the spell.
As David Foster Wallace put it, everybody worships, and the compelling reason for maybe choosing some sort of god or spiritual type thing to worship is that pretty much anything else you worship will eat you alive. If you worship money and things, you will never have enough.
Gimme!
Increasingly, as we're seeing mass burnout and backlash to hustle culture, we're also seeing the rise of practices like mindfulness, meditation, and digital detoxes, though often with a distinctly capitalist bent, as if you can buy wellness without making deeper changes.
I cannot end my day without a soak in one of these goop baths. It's really meant to use like the healing powers of essential oils to kind of bring you down.
Spirited Away, while grounded in specific Japanese ideas and spirits, is looking at spirituality as a broader, more immutable thing. The importance of a name, family, friendship, and love.
Haku. Thank goodness.
Working harder and harder won't ever deliver you to the promised land, but it's these things that will save your life.
What's going on?
Something you wouldn't recognize. It's called love.
What is your favorite scene from a Miyazaki movie?
For me, it just doesn't get any better than the Totoro growing scene. It just reminds you of just what a miracle it is that things grow. You just water these seeds and then they just grow. You couldn't forget this magic is around you all of the time. I also love the physicality of the way they kind of squeeze, they squeeze it up and they push it out like they're giving birth almost, and they will it to grow, and then they wake up the next morning and it's real that, you know, it hasn't grown into this big tree, but there are these little sprouts, and there's such an interesting feeling that they made it happen.
Oh, how many times would we love to have a good dream come true, right? It's a dream come true.
Building that appreciation and that awe for nature is one of the most amazing things about Miyazaki movies for me. The way that the young girls cultivate this relationship with nature, and it's their friend, it comes to them in times of need. It's such a beautiful way to teach us to think about the way that the natural world grows around us and what relationship we want to have with it.
And that we're not the only living creatures on this planet. In fact, we're only a slight blip on the larger, passage of time. And that we also, we can really teach us to our children. You know, I think about like the Black Ooze and Princess Mononoke towards the end, and how they have to deal with those natural elements and overcome a curse almost is the way we treat the world that we live in. So another scene I love is in Kiki's Delivery Service when she rediscovers her ability to fly. And it's so tied to also her ability to help and to to be there, to show up in a time of need.
Kiki was so brave. She really saved the day.
We have another video about Kiki, which is really interestingly, it's tapping into a similar theme as we're finding in Spirited Away, which is this burnout, this need to find purpose that's not just in a hustle culture.
Flying used to be fun until I started doing it for a living.
Both of these films are a lot about finding something else in your life, a spiritual outlet, something that nourishes you, nourishes your mind and soul.
And also has an opportunity, it gives you a moment to just take a step and think about, what are we absorbing? What are we allowing to come into our consciousness?
Yeah.
Are we then internalizing that and delivering it into the world?
Take long walks, look at the scenery, doze off at noon, don't even think about flying. And then pretty soon you'll be flying again.
This year has been such an opportunity to reflect, if among many things. And I think a lot of us went, well, what are we doing with our time? You never know how much time you have left. You don't have that much time on this earth. What are you doing with it? What is meaningful to you?
I guess I never gave much thought to why I wanted to do this.
For Kiki, finding that purpose, I think she needs to find her purpose in order to fly, and that's very literal for her, but it's true for the rest of us.
Her purpose is very much about human connection, and it's so true. The more you practice thinking about others and helping, that's the most enriching. That's the way that you can find really the most centering piece, I think, is when we realize we're all part of this larger story.
Yeah, you see that in Ponyo, which is one of the simpler stories, I think, in Miyazaki, but it's one of my favorites for that reason, because it is just this amazing telling of what love is, the way that Sosuke, when he says, I will love you.
I will love you too.
And I will protect you. And he says that it's a big responsibility.
It's a big responsibility, but I really love her.
I love Ponyo and I love Mei and Totoro. I love that little girl character who is just such a force of nature, and she's so wild and she just has this will. I don't know if I identify with this character, but that scene of Ponyo just running on the wave, running after Sosuke, and the mom goes, oh, that wave is just after us. The wild energy of her and her devotion, the way that she's like, I'm just gonna get back to him, or the way that she heals people, but it's this very ferocious, wild, young energy. It's just this sweet, sweet, childish love between them.
Ponyo loves Sosuke!
And also that love comes in many forms. I think that's shown through a lot of Miyazaki films.
For love. It broke Zeniba's spell.
Thanks again to Mubi for sponsoring today's video. This month, I'm checking out Mubi's exclusive release of the legendary Japanese director Nobuhiko Obayashi's final film, Labyrinth of Cinema. This anti-war masterpiece is a cinematic experience unlike any other. And that's just one of the amazing movies the service has to offer. Mubi's selection covers everything from iconic directors to emerging auteurs. It is the perfect place to discover and watch beautiful, interesting, incredible films. Right now, Mubi is offering our viewers 30 days free. So click the link in the description below to start streaming now.